Okay, I also made a poll, so we'll see if people can see the poll and if I can see the poll. I don't even know. I've never made a poll before, but it's just basically how long have people been beekeeping and where in the
Mm,
province are they coming from? So we'll see if that shows up. I don't even know.
I've never made a poll either, but
So let's see if I can see that. So yeah, it's there. So I'll launch the poll.
perfect.
Okay, welcome everyone. We're here with Ali and talking about beekeeping here in Alberta. I'm so excited. I don't know if you can see the poll, Ali.
I can. Yeah.
Beautiful. So that's great. Welcome everyone. So tonight is just opportunity for us to get to know Ali a bit and the programming going on with Alberta Apiculture. Our new provincial apiculturist is on maternity leave. We're cut like it's so perfect that all the inspectors, most of them now, I don't know all, but and the in provincial apiculturalists are women because beekeeping is so many ladies are keeping bees all the time. And yeah, so this is great that Ali is here covering for Renata. And so, quick intro about Ali. Ali has been working with the bee health assurance team with Alberta Ag since 2007. You were just a little baby then, hey?
I was fresh 18, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
And you never left. It must have been good
No,
because
it was good.
you've been the lead inspector since 2016.
Yes, yeah,
And
it's been a while.
now you're the acting provincial apiculturalist. So talk about a pretty amazing rise to success here in the small, massive world of beekeeping here in Alberta.
Mhm.
And your role is to manage all inspections carried out by the province, which I love how it's just casually written in this sentence. And I'm just like, yeah, that sounds like, just 300,000 colonies.
Yeah, well, we touched just a small percent of them, but
But still, it's crazy.
yeah.
And before you were the lead inspector, you helped manage, several hundred colonies. You've done numerous experiments and surveillance programs. I've seen you present at many conferences,
Yeah,
and you're very passionate about critters, especially
I
about animal
do. I
husbandry.
love
So,
them.
so we've got 22% are in their first year, 44% are, figuring it out, getting some honey maybe this year. And then another 33% are plus four. And then we're really good split throughout the province, which is really nice. And
Mhm.
it'll be open as we go through today's session. So I'm just going to hand it over to you, Ali,
All
and let
right.
you rip.
Well, I'm very happy to be presenting for everybody. I hope everybody's excited to get their nukes. Finally, the dandelions are out. We're about 2 to 3 weeks behind in some areas, so very exciting. Yeah, so thank you for the introduction, Elise, so I don't have to do that. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about our program. So we call ourselves the Bee Health Assurance Team. We work for Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation. There is myself right now, and then we have three inspectors outside of myself, so four of us. And then Olivia, she's in charge of register, or used to be in charge of registration for like over 10 years. Not anymore, sorry. She's in charge of permits. And then we just hired two seasonal surveillance technicians this year as well, because we have implemented a surveillance across Alberta. So very exciting. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about what each of our inspections kind of entail. And then I'll go into a little bit of statistics from last year and talk about Varroa mites because those are definitely the biggest cause of colony like death, decline, and it's happening a lot faster. Generally, if you had over the threshold of Varroa mite infestation of 3%, it would take, 2 years for the colony to die. Now we're seeing within a year of like 1%. So very important on monitoring and treatment. So I'll kind of go over that. And then please write down slide numbers if you guys have any questions on something specific or any questions at all at the end. I have lots of time this evening, so if there's lots of questions, I don't mind. Alrighty, so what do? Well, we administer the Alberta Bee Act and its regulation. So we regulate the importation of bees, queens, and used equipment from other provinces. So the nukes you guys are getting are from BC. So they've been thoroughly inspected, a percentage of them, and yeah, they have a clean bill of health, so everything is good to go. And then we also manage the registration of beekeepers within Alberta. So every beekeeper, whether you have just used equipment or one hive to 20,000 hives, you have to register with our office. And if you register, you will be able to get colony health alerts, certain uh, yeah, health alerts. So, for instance, this spring or last spring, we sent out something about EFB that was a little bit increasing in the spring. This year, we sent an infographic on packages, and soon to have an infographic on nukes as well. So, yeah, really helpful information for beekeepers. Yeah, and again, we provide support to commercial and hobbyists through various inspections and data collection. So I'll do a little bit of a deep dive into that. And ultimately, we minimize risks to the apiculture and pollination industries. So, Alberta has the largest hybrid seed canola pollination industry. So, a lot of beekeepers move from BC to Alberta, other prairie provinces to Alberta, etc. So, a lot of movement of colonies is happening across Canada. Okay, so in 2025, just as a little overview, and I really like seeing these small graphs, but 2025, we had 342,000 colonies in Alberta. And if you look, commercial beekeepers had about 327,000 of those, maybe 327.8, and there's only 184 of them. Where hobbyists, you folks, you're looking at about 15,000, which is still very significant, and 2,800. So it's really quite an inverse relationship there, and interesting to see. So a lot of our inspections do focus on the commercial folks, but we also go to a lot of hobbyists and we'll answer phone calls if you send photos of something, emails, etc. We definitely help out the hobbyist groups as well. Yeah, and one thing I also want to say is we do work for the government, but our main priority is to help beekeepers. We're not going to slap down any sort of fines or quarantine or anything like that. Like we want to make sure that beekeepers are successful and have assistance and help when it comes to diseases and pests, things like that. All right, inspection types. So obviously we're here to work and conduct emergency response when necessary. So an example is in 2020 we had to implement an ICS structure for an EFB outbreak, and that kind of was all across the province. 2020 was the weather was just kind of perfect, the wet, cool, rainy season for EFB to just pop out. And so we're kind of seeing a little bit of hot spots this spring just because of how cold it's been. EFB will come out of or will exacerbate during stressors. So a dearth or rainy season, it'll pop out. So yeah, we that's a type of emergency response. Another one could be small hive beetle coming into Alberta. Our program would organize, a trace out, quarantine, making sure that the small hive beetle is contained, things like that. So yeah, big part of our program. Thankfully, we don't have to do this too often. Yeah, so as I mentioned, small hive beetle, EFB, yellow-legged hornet, northern giant hornet. So we're keeping our eyes and ears on the yellow-legged hornet that is currently in South Carolina and Georgia. And there was a sighting, I believe, on a cargo ship in Vancouver, Washington recently. So definitely, our program kind of works on protecting our industry and being up to date on research and news and stuff. Tropicalaps has been a hot topic in our industry. So we're doing a lot of planning. It's not in North America right now, but we are in preparation and stuff if it does come in on what that looks like. Okay, interprovincial movement is one of our biggest things in types of inspections. So bee colonies, queens, nukes, packages, not necessarily packages, but depending where they come from, or used equipment coming out of, into, or through Alberta. And then beekeepers, goes for every type of inspection, can only receive an inspection if you are registered in Alberta. So that's an important thing to note. So the reason why we focus a lot on interprovincial movement is because of all of this movement across Canada. So in the spring, you're looking at about 10,000 colonies move to southern BC for fruit pollination, and they're coming from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta into BC. And then also later on, or sorry, in earlier, or no, about right now, 35,000 colonies moved to Eastern Canada. So we have a handful of beekeepers that go for a very long journey with their bees, and they do low bush blueberry pollination. And it seems to be picking up a lot more. So a lot of, and Canada is massive, and there is a lot of different, like what we see in Alberta, you don't see maybe in Ontario, Quebec, the Maritimes. So this is why inspections are so important, that things are healthy and diseases aren't being spread. And then in the summer, 70,000 colonies approximately move to southern Alberta for canola pollination. And it's a pretty small area. And again, those beekeepers are coming from all across Western Canada. And then in the fall, because our winters are so harsh, we have about 35,000 colonies that move to southern BC for overwintering, and then they stay in the spring for fruit pollination. So yeah, I really like this graphic just to see like, yeah, there's a lot going on with movement. We're not as big as the States by any mean, but there is still a lot of movement of colonies in Canada. Yeah, so things we're looking at is Varroa mite. We're looking at EFB, nosema, any kind of sac brood. With inspections, we're going to always look at the state of the equipment. So the frames, are they dark? Are they clean? Are they old? Wax can harbor not only bacteria, and residues from treatments, but also viruses. So I'll talk a little bit about viruses. So when you're starting out, you want generally brand new equipment. With nukes, you are going to get some used equipment, but you want to, mark those and then replace them as soon as as soon as you can, just to keep the hives nice and clean, and for biosecurity reason as well. Bees just thrive in new wax and new equipment. It's actually quite amazing when you can see the difference. Yeah, so this is where we will inspect a lot of hobbyists. So a general colony health inspection, this can entail, high winter losses, and beekeepers are not sure why they died. So we will come out and essentially do an autopsy of a dead out. Or what we could do first is talk to you over the phone, have photos sent to us, etc., and try to diagnose over the phone. Sometimes, like right now, we're seeing some spring dwindling and the bees are crashing in some commercial operations. So we are going out. We actually have one on Thursday, and we're going to test for things like nosema, viruses, and just seeing what's going on. Because if there's multiple, like 40 plus apiaries that are crashing, that's a problem. So we need to know what's going on. Disease pest ID, we will recommend management practices if there is a regulated pest in the colony. One thing our program does not do is management practices as far as beekeeping seasonal management goes. We are very focused on diseases and pests, so our management recommendations are on treatment options, things like that. We also get quite a few calls on suspected pesticide kill. Generally, it's not, but what we see is actually viral kill. So we sample dead bees if it looks like pesticide kill for pesticide analysis and viral analysis, and 90% of the time it's viruses. They have relatively the same symptoms or look like it's a very acute bee kill. AFB and EFB ID, we do quite a few of those. And then each inspection, we do full sampling. So we sample it for your Varroa mites, nosema, and then we look at your EFB, AFB subclinical symptoms and clinical symptoms. So we'll take an analysis or a sample of your adult bees to see if they're carrying any bacteria. But then we also will test any larva that looks kind of funky in the hive or suspicious and test for AFB and EFB. We don't typically test for viruses unless there's a large bee kill. Then we'll kind of have, if we do a process of elimination and everything else seems fine, then we will do viral analysis. Yeah, it's good. All right. So yeah, some EFB right here. It's definitely not as bad across the province as in 2020 and 2021, but it still pops up here and there. Signs of starvation is something we'll look at with winter loss inspections. This is what I'm talking about when I say pesticide or viral kill. Large amount of dead bees in the front. I have a couple videos in a few slides where they're crawling, kind of trembling. It's really, really sad. Yeah, when you love bees, you love bees. So you don't want to see them kind of suffering like that. But yeah, so that's what I'm talking about with either pesticide or viral kill. Here's some deformed wing virus and other just dark shiny bees. Varroa mites we'll look at. And then this is a really interesting photo. So this is actually Browla or bee louse. So packages coming from Australia or Tasmania have in the past have contained high levels of Browla. They generally will not hurt a colony, but they can add stress at this level. So what they end up doing is they'll steal the food that the workers are feeding to the queen. So there will be some detrimental effects in a colony, but not like, say, Varroa mites. Yeah, so this is what we want to see when we do sales inspections. Beautiful brood pattern, lots of bees. They've been adequately fed, queen's nice and healthy. This is generally what we don't want to see, but unfortunately we do see this a lot. Chalk brood, EFB, things like that. We've actually, the sales inspections have been really good in the last few years, other than the odd hive varroa mite, where we will let the beekeeper know, hey, you can't sell anything until you clear up either the infestation level or whatever's going on. And then we come back for a reinspection. And then after a couple of re-inspections of clean, everything is clean, then they will be allowed to sell. So in 2025, we did 91 inspections, and that was for 71 beekeepers. So in total, we did 184 yards or apiaries. And yeah, we looked at not very many winter loss last year as compared to this year. I don't have the stats for this year, but yeah, every year we post on our website a report of the previous season. So this information will be on the website as well to read. Yeah, and then we took a ton of samples. And yeah, I'm gonna go over Varroa mites and what we found. In the spring is where we did most of our sales inspections. So we did 47 in the spring, 17 in the summer, and 27 in the fall, where that was mostly interprovincial movement inspections. Yeah, this is just showing regionally. So region 5, the Peace region, is where most of our guys move to over winter in BC. And then, yeah, you can see where a lot of our inspections are kind of situated in north central and northwest. So this is going to make all of our samples and our data a little biased, right? So we're what we ended up doing was we built a surveillance program that started this year. So beekeepers were chosen at random, and apiaries, they like the number of apiaries for beekeepers chosen was also randomized depending on which region they were located and how many colonies are in that region. Yeah, so very excited for this data coming up because it is non-bias, which will be great to see different levels of pathogens and any trends geographically. Okay, so biggest threat to honeybees. I hope everybody is aware of what a Varroa mite is. If you're part of Elise's program, then I guarantee you do know because she is on it. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about Varroa mites. So a lot of this you may have heard already, and I do apologize for a little bit of overlap, but I think the more you hear about Varroa mites, the more prepared and vigilant you are. So it's the enemy number one. It was introduced in Canada in 1989 and it spread across the country by 2002. So this mite, it feeds on the blood of the larva under the brood cappings, but then it'll feed on the fat body of the adult bee in their phoretic stage. So there's a couple things going on here that affect the bee. So number one is when their fat bodies are being fed on, they're not going to be able to thermoregulate very well during the cold winter. So something to think about in that regard, but also they vector a ton of viruses. Um, and what they can do is cause parasitic mite syndrome. So this larva here in that cell looks a bit like EFB, but you can see there's 4 mites under that capping. And it's what we call parasitic mite syndrome. And yeah, if left untreated, which I've already mentioned, the colony will die within 1 to 2 years, but we're seeing like 1 year with high infestations. So the life cycle, I won't go into in depth, but the mated mite will go into the cell. It'll hide in the brood food. Once capping occurs, she'll start feeding, and then she'll start laying her eggs. So her first egg is a male Varroa mite, and then the rest of the eggs are females. And then what happens is, yeah, well, they mate. And then roughly like 2 to 3 mature mated Varroa mites, females, will then emerge with the worker bee. Yeah, so in 2025, we actually had a relatively low Varroa infestation with our inspection data, but so this is really difficult. Like you have to keep in mind our data is biased to sales or potential issues people call us or an interprovincial movement. So we had a 1.72% threshold in the fall. If you look at our data and you look with our winter losses. Oh, there's something at my window. Sorry. You could see, so in 2021, we went into winter with a 3.06 infestation, and we had about a 50% winter loss. So it's there is a correlation with high Varroa mites, high winter losses, but you do have to keep in mind that our inspections data is a bit biased. So I'm looking very forward to seeing what our surveillance data and how that correlates with winter losses moving forward. Okay, so what do beekeepers treat for Varroa mites? Well, the beekeepers we inspected in the spring, they're mostly treating with organic options and in the fall. So Apivar used to work really well, the synthetic miticide on the market. Worked really well at knocking down mites, but unfortunately, the mites have built resistance across the province, and it's not effective for a lot of beekeepers. For some people, it still has, maybe 50 to 70% efficacy. So beekeepers are still using it and then following up with the flash treatment of, say, formic acid or oxalic acid. Yeah, and I'll go into, there's new products on the market as well that just became registered. So here's a video. I'm hoping it'll play. It's a little depressing, but you can see this is what viral infections look like. They're unable to fly. They're kind of crawling, like this poor bee here. She's unable to, like she's trembling. Yeah. So not great. So if you see something like this in your operation or on your hives, like please give us a call and we can help assess what's going on. Yeah, that was a sad day, I have to say. Um, oh, sorry, I gotta pause this. Oh, now they're all playing. My bad. Sorry, guys. There we go. Yeah, so our results showed that chronic bee paralysis was really high. Acute bee paralysis virus, deformed wing, and Varroa destructor virus were all really high. Um, and these are viruses that we're going to be analyzing in all of our surveillance apiaries. So, yeah, just to get a better idea of the relationship, and also how long does it take for a colony to bounce back from viruses, or how long do the viruses take to dissipate if you get your Varroa mite levels under control. So lot of questions and not a lot of answers at the moment. And there is quite a bit of research being done specifically on viruses. Oh, oh, there it is. Yeah, so black queen cell virus. It's pretty much like in subclinical levels in colonies. We do see quite a bit of black queen cell virus, but if you're not rearing queens, it's not too much to worry about. Sac brood virus. So this is kind of what that looks like. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse. Oh, now you probably can. And then K-wing. So it's kind of a symptom of viruses, but there's other things that make K-wing as well. It could be just stressors, but viruses, it is a symptom. And then deformed wing virus. If you see this in your colonies, the levels are extremely high if you're seeing deformed wing virus symptoms like that. All right, now we'll get into the hopeful section on treatment and not all the doom and gloom. Okay, so first and foremost, Alberta Beekeepers Commission, the tech transfer program, they have put together a ton of literature and infographics. So this QR code is going to go to their resource page where there's a Varroa mite treatment, like a flow chart to tell you what you could treat with during the spring, summer, or fall. There's also like a Varroa decision tree of what level is your infestation, should you treat, etc. So yeah, they have a lot of great information and they have a virus key as well. It's a pretty large um, uh, or document that kind of outlines viruses if you're interested in that. Yeah, so Amaflex, I'm not going to go too in depth on each of these because our biggest thing is these are the treatments that are available, but follow the label. Always follow the label of any treatment. So Amaflex is new. It just got registered earlier this year. You can't use it during the honey flow because it is a synthetic miticide and its active ingredient is amitraz, so same as Apivar. This is a flash treatment though, so this is going to be interesting. We're going to try this out on our site colonies. Um, and yeah, it's one application for 7 days as opposed to the strips that are about 56 days. Apistan, I'm just going to say right now, don't use it. Um, Resistant, Varroa mites are very resistant to Apistan as well as Baverol, so also don't use that. Be very cautious if you're going to treat with Apivar or Amitraz products, so Apivar 2.0 or Amiflex, because of resistance. So you want to monitor your mite levels before the treatment, whether you're doing that with a sticky board or an alcohol shake. Um, and then you want to make sure you're monitoring after the treatment. See if the levels went down. That's your biggest thing. And then if they didn't, you have potentially time to do a flash treatment. So a flash treatment is like an organic option, is what I mean. So yeah, we have AP Life Var. So that these are our formic products. So formic acid 65%, formic pro, HopGuard. Not a lot of people use HopGuard. It is extremely messy and you need a ton of applications to see a knockdown. Another new one that came on is Viroxan that just got registered by the PMRA. You can use this while the honey supers are present, as well as it's an oxalic acid glycerin product, but it's a pre-made strip. So you can also mix your own oxalic acid dihydrate and glycerin. And the on the label, the instructions are there. You can use this while there are honey supers on. It is not the answer on its own. So from what I've seen from beekeepers, it works if you've already got your mite levels down in the spring. If your mite levels are high in the spring, this is not going to bring them down like a flash treatment. It's just going to maintain that lower infestation. So yeah, just keeping that in mind, you kind of have to have a ton of treatments in your toolbox throughout the year. You can't rely on just one treatment in the spring or one treatment in the fall. You need to honestly treat every season if you can. That's kind of what we've just seen in the last few years. The varroa mites are just really bad, and there's a lot of beekeepers around, a lot of colonies, so you get a lot of drifting, robbing. In the fall and spring, a lot of commercial beekeepers barrel feed because it's much easier for them. So that's kind of a hub for varroa mites to then, you know, hitch a ride on another bee kind of thing. So yeah, just keeping in mind. There are quite a few options, but your organics are kind of your best option currently. Um, yeah. And then we have a website with tons of resources and information on inspections, registration, interprovincial movement, things like that. So please take a look. And then I realized I did not have a team photo because we have a big, like a relatively new team. So I put a picture of Anton down in southern Alberta. But yeah, you got this presentation made me realize I need to get everybody together. All right. So I hope that was good for you guys. Wasn't I'm open to lots of questions and
That
yeah.
was great. Thank you, Ali.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you making the time. I can only imagine how busy you are. If you
Mhm.
could stop sharing your screen, then we
Absolutely.
can see your face a little bit better. Perfect.
Okay. My
Awesome.
sunny,
Per
sweaty sun face. It's a hot day today.
Well, it's so funny, right?
It's
Like it's
beautiful.
we're right now we're at 38% of beekeepers have a little bit of experience, 31 have none, and
Nice.
31 have more than some. So
That's awesome.
we're like split across the board, which is really excellent.
That is.
So all of you who are in your first year of beekeeping, they're calling for record heat this year. So make sure
Yes.
you get one of those clip-in fans to put inside your bee
Yes.
suit and be hydrated so you don't pass out in the field and people think you're dead.
Yeah. We
Um,
don't want that.
no. Thank you, Ali. That was incredibly helpful. I think like the takeaway from this has to do with going back. Like, yes, we can talk about treatments. Yes, we can talk about surveillance supports that you provide and your technician team provides. But I
Hmm.
think it's really important that we really contemplate and activate biosecurity practice from the very beginning to the very end of fall.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes for every disease too, right? Like not just Varroa mite. So making sure for if you're going into a colony and you have multiple and you're seeing something suspicious, scorch your hive tool when you're thinking about
Mhm.
biosecurity. Scorch your hive tool, use bleach, change your gloves, things like that. Um, yeah, that's also another aspect of
Absolutely.
biosecurity. Yeah.
Like I beekeep barehanded, and I always have like a foam container where you press it and it fills the foam of hand sanitizer.
Yes.
And I just
Yes.
out of habit just use it between each hive.
Absolutely.
It helps get the sticky of the honey off without
Yeah.
using water. But it really helps that even just, I can scorch my hive tool, but I make sure that my hands that are touching things. If you're
Mm-hmm.
using gloves, I strongly recommend those blue gloves. And Renata taught me this is put on 2 or 3 pairs. So as
Mm-hmm.
you're working, if they
Yes.
tear or rip, you can peel a set off instead of having to put new gloves on
Which
wet hands.
doesn't happen easily.
Because they're so sweaty that they end
Yeah.
up just like not going on. It's like a comic show, right?
Yeah.
So put 2 or 3 sets on. So between hives, you can just peel off a set, keep going. It works really smoothly that way. But I think it's really important, like really drawing on that inspection, making sure you're regular with your inspections. You know what normal
Mm-hmm.
looks like. And
Yes.
then as you move forward, if you see something abnormal, take photos, document it,
Yes.
and do some research. You can contact me. You can talk, and then of course,
Mhm.
also know that you can contact Ali
Please,
as
yes.
the
Yeah.
professional. I'm
You're
happy to
also a
provide
professional. Come on.
I know, but I'm happy to provide support. But I do call you in. I mean, you're going to go
Yeah.
visit an apiary I mentor on
Yeah.
Friday
Mm-hmm.
because it is really important that the diagnostic evidence isn't just qualitative, that we're not
For
just
sure.
looking at it and going, that
Yeah.
looks fishy. Instead, we're going, okay, what are we actually dealing with and what is the best management
Mm-hmm.
practice for
Yeah.
coping or strategizing?
One thing I also forgot to mention, but we have an app, so Bee Health app, and Olivia is updating that.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
I can share the QR code with you, Elise, if you want to pass that on.
Yes,
But
please.
there is you can make like your own little journal, and then if you have
Mm-hmm.
an incident or my incident, you can add photos in there, and you can send an email through the app directly to us, which is quite helpful. We do get quite a few a
Absolutely.
year.
Absolutely. And I think here I just have the open Alberta link. I'll post that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like it's really key that you never assume that you are not going to get disease because you're on a farm somewhere, you feel like you're isolated, you're starting with new equipment. Sometimes bad things happen to good bees, and
Yes.
it's really important that you are doing the best that you can to have preventative measures.
Yeah.
Now, if I have some questions here from the chat, but I want to just ask really quick. If I think there's something wrong and I
Hmm.
contact you and I want you to come visit, what is the likelihood that you would be able to visit in like what is the timeline?
It really depends on the time of year. So,
Okay.
spring, we do a lot of sales inspections across the province. So, we will fit people in as best as we can. We generally, it'll be roughly a week to 2 weeks if we can't fit you in on a trip because there are only two teams, which can be, um, we stretch ourselves pretty thin. But we want to help everybody as much as we can. So that's where the photos come in. If you're local to Edmonton, you can even drop some frames off at our facility and you can contact me, my email about that, if you need. But yeah, we generally will try to fit in within 1 to 2 weeks. But we love those photos just because we can really see if it's something where, okay, you need to quarantine this hive or destroy it immediately kind of thing,
Yeah,
which you probably guys probably don't want to hear, but yeah.
absolutely. And I think I think the key thing is so there's a question here that asks of the 91 inspections in 2025, how many were commercial versus hobbyist? First, I want to ask how
Hmm.
many people, plus including you, are on your inspection team that covers the border of the north, the border of the east, the US border in the south, and the border in the west? How
There's
many of them are?
four.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so I
fine.
just want
Yeah.
everyone to know there's four of them,
Yeah.
and they drive an enormous
Yeah.
amount.
But we love our job and we want to help
Absolutely, but
as many people as possible. Yeah.
so if you're talking to your MLA and you're talking to your
Yeah.
MPs about funding,
Yeah,
a fifth person would go a long way.
for sure.
But I do think like when we talk about 91 inspections, how many of
Mhm.
them were commercial and how many of them were hobbyists?
So I should have put those stats in. I don't know them off the top of my head, but roughly I want to say 15% hobbyists, 85 commercial, just on the top of my head. Um, Yeah, and we mostly see hobbyists early season,
Hmm.
if their colonies died and they're not sure what's going on, or late summer, early fall when things just aren't um, growing as you want to see for winter.
Are
Yeah.
most of these inspections like interprovincial transportation inspections?
Those are in the fall we mostly have. So
Yeah.
we had 42 in the spring, and those none of maybe a couple were interprovincial, but those are within the province for sales or AFB, EFB follow-ups or general colony health. Yeah,
Okay, perfect. And then if you have a question you want to ask yourself, you can unmute yourself. Just raise your little hand and I'll call on
please.
you.
Yes, yes.
But Terry asks, any opinions on heat treatment for Varroa mites and its success? I've seen
Yeah.
these.
Yeah. I have not seen any promising results. Yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
you
Yeah,
know, I
yeah.
was going to say the same thing.
Yes.
They are so idealistic. I think the
Yes.
challenge that we have is that, like, the application of the heat treatment really requires their, I don't know. I think it's wishful thinking.
Yeah, it's not practical for especially commercial beekeepers and hobbyists. It's going to be a huge cost because the one that I've been reading about was each frame heats up, right? That is expensive,
And I
but
don't even know, like, the efficacy, the results on
mhm,
peer-reviewed studies on this,
not great.
not great.
No.
And so I personally I don't see the functionality of that sort of application. In my opinion, if you're really looking at doing a high maintenance varroa mite treatment, it's
Hmm.
queen isolation, broodless cycles, and oxalic acid treatment.
Yeah. In the future, this is going to be a controversial thing I'm about to say, but what I would like to see is an RNA-based varroa mite treatment. So you're only hitting varroa mites, there's no residues, and there are some that are coming out slowly, but they are quite expensive. A little controversial, I know, for some folks, but
Well, is the
um,
Rupal lab working on something similar to that?
they're working on a synthetic miticide,
Yeah.
Rasul, which has very promising results, but it still takes the PMRA process to get it actually registered takes so long. And then Dr. Steve Purnell, he up in Beaver Lodge, he also has a synthetic miticide that was promising. So there is some good stuff on the way, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. And then there's a question here from Terry.
yeah.
Again, how long are you keeping your boxes in frames before changing them out? When we're talking
Mhm.
about brood boxes versus honey boxes, like how old should combs get?
So there's a little bit of discrepancy, but what I kind of tell beekeepers is you don't want a frame to be more than 5 years old. But this is also if you have a crash one year, and it's due to either foul brood or say high varroa mites, try to get new frames in, especially as a hobbyist. It's more attainable to
Yeah.
start fresh, more um, quickly than commercial beekeepers. So yeah, 5 years is kind of the longest, but if you can do even like 2 to 3, you'll see a huge change in your colonies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too is like if you are using synthetic pesticides, like if you're going to be
Yes.
using Apivar, if you're going to be using like the Amiflex, that new product where you have that burst
Mm-hmm.
treatment, I do
Mm-hmm.
think that aiming for, less, 5 years or less,
Oh
on
yeah.
your brood frames is important because you do have that bioaccumulation. And the goal is to not have low dose exposure to the varroa mites in your apiary so that these chemicals keep working.
Yes, but you're also the whole other aspect that we're seeing is the viral loads that are harbored in the wax redispersing into new bees you're getting.
Okay.
There's just so many variables that, yeah, with old comb, you're gonna have the residue, treatment residues, viruses, bacteria.
Yeah.
So yeah, if as a hobbyist, if you can, you say in 2 years, use some of the honey super frames from the year before and put them in your brood box and start getting rid of old brood frames. And then putting in foundation in your honey super and just kind of rotating that way.
Okay, I have some questions about other pests because
Yeah.
this year with the El Nino of the year,
Hmm.
when we had this happen last time, we had just yellow jacket infestations in British
Yeah.
Columbia,
Yeah.
wipe out
Yeah.
outfits.
It was bad.
It,
Yeah.
it was shocking.
Hmm.
Do you have any advice for people right now on how to mitigate a problem in the fall?
You can put traps or entrance reducers are really good in the fall. So after your honey supers come off, and the weather gets cooler, entrance reducers can help keeping your colonies as strong as possible to defend themselves. So doing all your treatments, your feeding, etc., is going to help. But I have seen interesting contraptions that people have used that might work. But my recommendations would probably be entrance reducers and keeping your colonies strong.
Yeah, this year, so what this year, my paranoia about it,
Hmm.
because is I've already bought bait, like wasp bait, and
Yeah.
hung it around the
Oh,
apiary
yeah. Sorry, you can get pheromone traps too for yellow
to
jacket.
catch, yeah,
Yeah.
and so I'm
So
trying to
those,
catch the emerging queens.
yes,
And so I'm
that's
trying to
smart.
capture
Yeah.
the nests before they're large. So if
Yes.
that's something um, that you are seeing, like wasp
Hmm.
activity already, that means that those are
Yeah.
queens and young colonies starting where the nest is maybe the size of a silver dollar. Like
Yeah.
that's where you want to be catching them.
Absolutely.
Because it's wild. Some of these nests get so large that even if you're
Yes.
catching 1,000 wasps a day, you're only getting a
Like a
dent.
drop in the bucket. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot Rasul did have a lot of pheromone traps and it worked really well around his apiaries on site.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
get those now or
Yeah.
forever hold your peace. And then the Browla. I've never
Yeah.
seen that. So what do
Yeah.
you do if you like get a package from Australia and New Zealand?
So unfortunately, well, fortunately, I don't see this too often. What you can do is treat with formic. There isn't really a known registered treatment for Browla in Canada, but I know a lot of commercial guys will use formic and it can knock it down quite a bit.
Does it cause supersedure often because of the
It might,
stress?
yeah, if it's at that level that I was just showing you on that
Yeah.
queen. We had a hobbyist that was probably like 6 years ago sent that, and it was just like, oh my God, that poor queen. You just wanted to take tweezers and like pick everyone off of that poor
Like
girl.
just wash her up, like,
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we've talked a lot about Varroa, we talked about Browla, we talked about
Yeah.
wasps. What is going on with European foulbrood right now?
Yeah, so we've definitely had a few cases this spring. Um, if you do find it, there's a few things you can do without using antibiotics. That's kind of your last resort. You can, when you're monitoring your hive or inspecting it, if you see any early symptoms, you want to be looking in your hive frequently, right? In the spring and the fall. If you see suspicious cells on a frame, pull that frame right out. Just get it out. Add in a new frame, like a honey super from last year or foundation. And you're gonna hopefully get rid of the EFB before it spreads into other frames or into other colonies. If it does end up showing up in several frames, but your colony is still really strong, you can just shook swarm we call it shook swarm method. You can shake your bees into brand new foundation and scrape the wax in on the inside of your boxes and bottom boards, and then excuse me, and then feed like crazy with sugar syrup. But one thing to keep in mind with the shook swarm is you don't want to do it past honestly like mid-July, early July, because they're not
Mhm.
going to have enough time to fill that wax out or build that wax out and fill with eggs and new brood for winter. But yeah,
Yeah.
so and we can work with you guys if you suspect you have EFB or AFB, like we will prioritize those type of inspections for yourself and for the health of other colonies nearby.
Yeah. So like when how I teach the season is like the daylight hours work in a bell curve. Your beekeeping
Hmm.
season works in a bell curve. These methodologies only work in that period of increase. As soon as
Hmm.
you hit the period of decrease, so we're heading into
Yes.
July, daylight hours are shrinking, you're
Hmm.
running out of runway to get that shook swarm colony to produce enough wax, to store enough food, to have a winter
Absolutely.
population for survival. So that's like a now consideration, not
Yes.
a later
No,
consideration.
later, unfortunately, you want to catch it as early as possible and just remove that one frame or two frame that you're seeing. But yeah, we definitely can work with you very closely
Yeah,
on any foul brood issues, and that's the same for AFB as well.
absolutely. Okay, any other questions coming in as we head up toward our 8 o'clock deadline? Go ahead and
We got
raise your
eight
little hand.
minutes.
Yeah, we got 8 minutes.
We need more
Now or forever hold
questions.
your peace. Yeah. There's no dumb questions in this group. It's
Not at
really
all.
important. Go ahead and like
I have,
raise your little
yeah.
paw.
I have to be honest, it's been almost 20 years, and every year I'm like, what the heck is going on?
That's
Like,
why you're a good beekeeper, though. I think,
I'm like,
some
I
of
have
the
more
best mentors I've
questions.
ever had
Hmm.
is where I send them a picture and I'm like, what is this? And they go, I don't know. What do you think it is? And I go, like, well, that's why I'm asking you. They call, we talk for longer than I expect.
Yeah.
And then we come up with a couple options. Or they
Yeah.
know they're just messing with me, or they have
Right.
more questions in order to make sure that what they think is happening.
Exactly.
But you
Yeah.
gotta be constantly assuming that you're an idiot. Because the
Yeah.
bees are always changing. So Karen asks, the rules of commercial operations pushing into hobbyist territory.
Hmm.
Too much to type is what Karen says. So I
We
guess
don't
like
go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I guess it's always been an interesting thing because
Hmm.
it's been 17 years now that I've been doing this. And I remember asking a commercial beekeeper like 16, 17 years ago,
Yeah.
like, where do you keep your bees? And they were like, what's it to you? Right?
Oh, yeah. It's still
Like
like that.
it's really private and like
Yeah.
people are really much concerned about losing apiary sites and locations.
Hmm.
Um, and so, like, when you talk about encroaching into hobbyist territory, if you're say bought an acreage and there's a commercial
Hmm.
outfit in a quarter near yours,
I
um,
I hear about this all every year. We have
so let's
complaints.
talk
Yeah.
about that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so in that scenario, my number one thing is, have you reached out to the beekeeper? So, do you know the beekeeper? Do you know the landowner? Generally, if you're nice about it, they'll move their bees, but sometimes that's not the case. So unfortunately, our Bee Act and regulation does not have anything under it as far as location of colonies. So sometimes you can call your bylaw officers or the municipality. They will have kind of rules, but really you kind of just want to build rapport with that beekeeper and say, hey, like I have bees here. It's a discussion. I don't have a great answer for this because I every year there's something that's going on and I try to be the bridge, but that doesn't always work. And I'm sorry, I wish I had a better answer than that,
Karen
but
says that they talked to them and it was a brick wall.
ugh,
So here's the
yeah,
challenge. So
yeah,
sometimes, like for instance, like I was talking to Reese at Scandia. They're way down south of Brooks. They
yeah.
got bees north of Hannah. Like
Oh
they
yeah,
drive for hours
yeah,
and hours to get to their
yeah.
outfit. So you may know the property owner, and they may have
Hmm.
inherited the apiary site on their land. They don't
Yes,
even actually know who the beekeeper is. They just know that they get,
100%.
like,
Yeah,
if they're lucky, they get honey dropped off. Sometimes they don't even get honey dropped off because
yeah,
nobody. It has been lost to the sands of time on who has a
for sure.
yard. What I recommend is you write a letter, put
Hmm.
it in a Ziploc bag, seal it, take it to the apiary, plop it under a rock on
Yes.
top of a beehive.
Hmm.
So at the very least, if the apiarist, the beekeeper isn't there, that the staff that's there will see there's a letter for them and will give it to
Right.
them when they end up back at the apiary.
Definitely. And you may have to put more than one letter down. I'm sorry, Karen, that you talked to them and it was a brick wall. That's like, it's unfortunate because I don't know what your next step would be. Are you on an acreage or out in the country? If, like, I would imagine because it's a commercial, so operation, but
Yeah, this is Karen.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
yeah.
I'm on an acreage and I had hives for just about 20 years, just a
Hmm.
few numbers, couple, two, three at the most.
Yeah.
And then this operator came in less than a quarter mile away, plopped down 40 hives,
Ugh.
robbed mine blind, and I haven't been able to have bees since.
Oh, I'm so
Because
sorry.
it's a useless effort on my part. And there's
Right.
another same guy, another 40 hives less than a mile away. So he's got two really close,
Hmm.
40
Hmm.
to 40 to or more, 40, 50 that are within a mile. And
Right.
my two little ones have no chance. No
No.
chance.
No, I'm so sorry to hear that. I like our B Act and regs, unfortunately, there's etiquette and not everybody follows etiquette, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I can say as a person who trains hobbyists, there is definitely not for all commercial beekeepers. I'm not speaking of all, but there is
Hmm.
definitely a uncomfortable
Hmm.
energy around
I know.
hobbyists and commercial industry outfits that create a barrier for good quality ethical interpersonal relationships,
Yeah.
especially what you would hope in a
Hmm.
farming community
Yeah.
would be provided, but it's not. There's
No.
a lot of fear that our hobbyist practices are going to create disease transmission and health
Hmm.
insecurities and a lack of knowledge, which is a totally understandable concern.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the activities of Ali and her team, the Alberta Beekeepers Commission and their tech transfer team, myself, the Calgary
Hmm.
District Bee Club, the Edmonton District Bee Club, like there's an enormous amount of support, education, training that doesn't exist in a lot of places in North America. We're really fortunate to have the amount of collaboration and resources for everybody, not just
Hmm.
hobbyists,
Yeah.
that that it becomes really awkward.
It
Um,
does. It does. Yeah.
yeah, and it doesn't help that like Ontario hobbyists and commercial outfits went to war in like 2008, 2010.
I know. It's out of hand.
Um,
Yeah.
like actually like legal litigiously went to battle. And so there's a lot of fear, like written here by Troy, that
Hmm.
hobbyists will overwhelm the industry and actually impede productivity and the livelihoods of these
Hmm.
beekeepers. So yes, it may not be pleasant, and
Yeah.
yes, it's not ideal, but where they're coming from is completely understandable. There is precedent for them to be
Hmm.
cautious of hobbyists spreading
But that
disease.
also goes the opposite
Yeah.
way because a lot of hobbyists are, if they're near commercial operations, one of the biggest issues I see is, well, Varroa mites drifting. So when you're not treating kind of in that same window, you could
Hmm.
be treating, and then if they didn't treat, you're just gonna get reinfested. Do you know what I mean? So I can see
Yeah.
both ways,
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. I mean, we
Hmm.
all know as hobbyists, our ability with time is much more nurturing. I mean, if your queen's name
Hmm.
is Esmeralda and your kids painted your beehive and you're obsessing, your ability to be nurturing, caring, observant, and involved is much
Yes.
higher than an outfit that has 5,000, 10,000
Yeah.
colonies.
20,000
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Which
right?
is yeah.
But the
I-
experience,
yeah.
knowledge, and expertise is not going to be the same.
Right.
Not yet, if you're
Not yet.
beginning.
Yeah.
So, so I do think like there's more opportunity for discussion, and both me and Ali can say we're streets ahead from where we were 10 years ago, Ali.
Yes.
This
Yes.
industry has innovated so much. The
Yes.
fact that Ali's even here presenting to us and is open and willing to inspect hobbyists
Mm-hmm.
is is a massive amount of progress that wasn't
Yeah.
available 15 years ago.
No, it was not. Like when I started, our inspection program was tiny. We only ever inspected interprovincial movement.
Yeah,
And it just wasn't enough.
no,
Yeah, we've evolved a lot for the best,
yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. So,
Mhm.
Karen, that that really sucks, and I'm really sorry for you. And I really hope you're the only one that ends up experiencing this. And I also really encourage all of you, like, if you are struggling to get in contact with the apiarist on the property,
Hmm.
if you are struggling that their like open feeding or their lack of water availability is causing
Yeah.
for overwintered colonies that you have like tens of thousands of bees in your
Hmm.
backyard,
It
that you
happens often. Yeah.
it does happen. That you contact your bylaw, you
Yes.
contact,
Your
you can
egg fieldman. Yeah,
I
for
was going to
sure.
say contact Alberta Agriculture because they have
Yeah.
PID numbers
Yeah.
that identify bees, and that is a hazard, and
Hmm.
that is not within the expectations of good management. Is
It's
to
yeah.
have your cows loose on the road or your
Yeah.
bees swarming someone's property.
Your hot tub while you're trying to have your evening
Yeah.
glass of wine, or like, no.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
okay, well, I am grateful, Ali, that you are taking up the reins this year, filling in some shoes, making sure that we all get the inspections. If you are wanting to ask questions, send pictures, get
Yeah.
the Bee app. It's excellent,
Hmm.
and it does go straight to their inbox.
Yeah.
Contact Ali. Can you share your screen again of your contact
Yeah.
information?
Yeah, you guys can take a picture. Um, it's quite easy. Oh no, I'll write it in the chat.
Yeah,
How
write it
about
in the
that?
chat.
I'll put my email, and then we also have the B email,
Hmm.
um, which is very easy to remember. b@gov.ab.ca.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, please feel free to reach out, like if you have questions pertaining to diseases, things like that. Or I also put a website with the egg fieldmen across Alberta, so you can always, if you have an issue with bees and such like that, you can always contact them.
And the rule for Ali is the same as the rule for me. So those of you who've taken my courses, those 5 inspection questions, do
Mm-hmm.
not contact Ali or her team unless you've asked those questions. Are you queen right? How does the brood pattern look? Is there sign of queen replacement? Is the colony been increasing or decreasing in size? And are you symptomatic of disease or fearful of disease? If you don't know the answers to those questions, external photos of your beehives where they're covered in bees, you're like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
We can't answer them. You
Yeah.
have to get in and inspect. You
Yes.
have to be taking reporting information, whether you're filling out
Mm-hmm.
paper inspection sheets or you're using an app. Data
Mm-hmm.
collection is so important for
Very.
diagnostic supports. So make sure you have all your ducks in a row when you reach out so that they can have as much support as quickly as possible. So your turnaround, if it is chronic, if it is a concern, can be rapid and that your response time can be equally as rapid.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
thank you guys so much. It was lovely. Yeah. I
Okay.
hope I didn't ramble on. It's kind of late in the day, but
No, this is great. A
yeah.
little bit of heat stroke over there.
Yeah, no
So,
big deal.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ali, and thank you for everyone who
Yeah.
attended. And bee distribution is happening all on June 6th, Calgary, Red Deer, and Edmonton this year. Pray for me that I pull it off on
So
one day.
exciting. Yeah.
And thank you for the permits to transport these bees interprovincially. And definitely we'll talk soon. Thanks, Ali. Take care,
Awesome.
everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Good night.